Have you ever faced a moment where everything you believed in was put to the ultimate test? A moment so profound, it threatened to shatter your world, yet also held the potential for your greatest breakthrough. This is the story of such a moment, a journey into the heart of unwavering faith. Imagine waking before the sun, not to the gentle chirping of birds, but to the echo of a divine command that chills you to the bone. This was the dawn that greeted Abraham, a man who had walked with God for 100 years. He wakes from a dream, or perhaps a vision. His face pale in the faint morning light, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. The words still hang in the air, heavy and absolute. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering. Isaac, the son of laughter, the child of promise, born to him and Sarah in their old age, the living, breathing embodiment of God's covenant. This wasn't just a difficult request, it was a contradiction of everything Abraham had been promised. To sacrifice Isaac was to sacrifice the future, to sacrifice the very promise of God himself. How could the giver of life demand such a thing? The silence in the tent is deafening, broken only by the frantic beating of his own heart. In this profound stillness, a battle rages not against God, but within himself, a battle between a father's love and a believer's faith. Yet, as the first rays of dawn pierce the darkness, something shifts. Abraham rises. There is no hesitation, no questioning, no bargaining. The Bible simply says, he rose early in the morning. This small detail speaks volumes. True faith doesn't procrastinate. It doesn't wait for a better time or a clearer sign. When the call comes, it acts. Watch as he moves with a heavy but resolute purpose. His hands, though trembling slightly, are steady as they saddle the donkey. He gathers the wood for the offering, each piece a weight on his soul. Then, he calls for his son. Isaac, young and unsuspecting, comes to his father's side, his eyes bright with the adventure of a new day. Abraham looks at his boy, the son he loves more than life itself, and his heart must have felt like it was being torn in two. But his eyes, though filled with a deep, unspoken sorrow, are firm. He has made his choice. This is the morning of obedience. And so, the journey begins. A father, a son, and two servants set out under the vast, empty sky. Picture them walking, a small party moving through the stark beauty of the desert. Their shadows stretch long behind them as the sun climbs higher. For 3 days, they travel in near silence. What could be said? How could Abraham explain the inexplicable to his beloved son? Every step is a prayer. Every glance at Isaac is a test of his resolve. The silence isn't empty. It's filled with the weight of what is to come. It's a sacred, agonizing quiet where Abraham communes with God in the deepest chambers of his spirit. He is walking towards the greatest sacrifice of his life, sustained only by a trust so absolute it defies all human logic. He believed that the God who could bring life from a barren womb could also bring life from the ashes of death. This 3-day journey wasn't just a physical trek. It was a pilgrimage of the soul, a slow, deliberate walk into the very heart of faith, where every footstep echoed his unwavering yes to God. Imagine walking for 3 days. 3 days with a heavy heart, knowing what you've been asked to do. This was Abraham's journey. God had commanded him to sacrifice his only son, Isaac, the son of promise. Can you even begin to fathom the weight of that command? Every step Abraham took toward Mount Moriah must have been a battle within his own soul. He loved his son more than words could express, yet his faith in God was absolute, unshakable. As they reached the foot of the mountain, Abraham turned to his servants. "Stay here with the donkey," he said. "The boy and I will go over there and worship, and then we will come back to you." Notice his words, "We will come back to you." Even in this moment of unimaginable trial, Abraham's faith held a sliver of hope, a belief that God's plan was greater than his understanding. He was holding on to a promise, even when the path ahead seemed to lead only to loss. Then came a moment that must have been both tender and agonizing. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, the very instrument of the sacrifice, and gently placed it on his son Isaac's shoulders. As the young boy began to carry that heavy load up the mountain, a powerful image unfolds before us, an echo through time. The son, innocent and obedient, carried the wood for his own sacrifice, just as another son, centuries later, would carry the heavy wooden cross up the hill of Calvary for the sins of the world. The parallels are breathtaking, a divine tapestry woven through the ages. The weight on Isaac's shoulders was more than just wood. It was a shadow of the ultimate sacrifice to come. As they walked together, the silence was broken by Isaac's innocent voice. He looked up at his father, his eyes filled with a trust that must have pierced Abraham's heart. "Father," he asked, and Abraham replied, "Yes, my son." The boy's next question was so simple, yet so profound. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Pause for a moment and feel the weight of that question. The air grows still. The sound of their footsteps on the rocky path seems to fade away. All of Abraham's inner turmoil, his struggle, his faith, and his love converge in this single, heart-wrenching moment. How do you answer your child when he unknowingly asks about the instrument of his own death? Every fiber of Abraham's being must have screamed in protest, yet his response is one of the most powerful declarations of faith ever recorded. With a voice surely thick with emotion, his own eyes likely filling with tears he fought to hold back, Abraham looked at his beloved son and spoke words that would resonate for millennia. "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. My son," this wasn't just a hopeful guess or a way to deflect the question. It was a prophetic statement, a declaration of complete and total trust in the sovereignty and provision of God. Abraham didn't know how, he didn't know when, but he believed with his entire being that God was in control and would provide what was needed. He was placing his son, his future, and his entire life into the hands of a faithful Creator. This moment teaches us so much about the nature of true faith. It's not about having all the answers. It's not about an easy, comfortable life. True faith is trusting God in the midst of the deepest, darkest valleys. Believing in His provision even when you can't see it. It's holding on to His promises when circumstances scream the opposite. Abraham's faith was being tested by fire, and his answer was the proof of its purity. So, they continued on, father and son, side by side. When they finally reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar. He carefully arranged the wood he and his son had carried. Every action must have been deliberate, heavy with sorrow and surrender. Then, in an act that defies comprehension, he bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar. On top of the wood, the knife was in his hand. The moment of ultimate sacrifice had arrived, but just as Abraham raised his hand, a voice called out from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham," and he replied, "Here I am." "Do not lay a hand on the boy," the angel of the Lord said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." In that moment of release, Abraham looked up and there, caught in a thicket by its horns, was a ram, a substitute, a divinely provided sacrifice. God had, indeed, provided the lamb. Or in this case, the ram. Abraham's faith was rewarded, and Isaac's life was spared. Abraham called that place "The Lord will provide," and to this day, it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." This story is not just a historical account. It's a living testament to the faithfulness of God. It's a foreshadowing of the ultimate provision on another mountain, Golgotha. There, God did not provide a ram. He provided His own Son, Jesus, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world. Just as Isaac was spared by a substitute, we are spared by the ultimate substitute, Jesus Christ, who took our place on the cross. Abraham's test of faith reveals the heart of God, a God who is faithful, who provides, and who loves us so much that He was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for us. This story invites us to examine our own faith. Are we willing to trust God when the path is unclear? Do we believe in His provision, even when we are facing our own mountains and our own impossible situations? Abraham's journey reminds us that on the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. Trust in Him. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most powerful stories ever told. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content that explores the depths of faith. May you find strength and hope in the knowledge that the Lord will provide. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most profound and challenging stories ever told. A story that tests the limits of faith, obedience, and human understanding. We're talking about Abraham and Isaac, a journey that begins with the simple yet earth-shattering command from God. Imagine being asked to give up the one thing you cherish most in the world. For Abraham, that was his son, Isaac, the son of promise, the miracle child he and Sarah had waited a lifetime for. The instruction was clear and terrifying. Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Think about the weight of those words. This wasn't just a test of obedience. It was a test of trust on a cosmic scale. How could the God of promise, the God who had provided this child, now ask for his life? Every human instinct, every shred of logic, would scream against it. The journey to Moriah must have been excruciating, a 3-day trek filled with unspoken questions and a heavy, silent burden. Every step Abraham took was a step further away from reason and deeper into the raw, unfiltered territory of faith. What must have gone through his mind? Did he wrestle with doubt? Did he plead with God in the quiet of his heart? The text tells us he rose early the next morning and went, just like that, an act of radical, immediate obedience that defies our modern sensibilities. He wasn't just walking towards a mountain, he was walking into the very heart of his relationship with God, ready to surrender everything. As they approached the place, the tension must have been unbearable. Isaac, the innocent son, carrying the wood for his own sacrifice, turns to his father and asks the question that hangs in the air. "Father, the fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Can you feel the heartbreak in that moment? Abraham's reply is one of the most faith-filled statements in all of Scripture. God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. My son. He spoke of a provision he could not see, a hope that seemed impossible. He was declaring his trust in God's character, even when God's commands seemed to contradict it. This wasn't blind faith, it was sight-unseen faith. He believed that the God who could bring life from a barren womb could also bring life from death, perhaps even raising Isaac from the ashes. He was clinging to the promise, even as he was preparing to sacrifice the embodiment of that promise. Now, let's journey with them up the mountain. Picture the scene, a father and his beloved son climbing Mount Moriah together. The sun begins to set behind them, casting long shadows, painting the sky in shades of crimson and orange, almost like a premonition of the blood that might be shed. With every upward step, they leave the world of logic and reason further below. They are ascending the mountain of obedience, a place where the familiar rules of life no longer apply. Here, at this altitude of surrender, faith is the only oxygen. A slow, rhythmic drumbeat seems to echo their heartbeats, building a palpable tension. This is not just a physical climb, it's a spiritual ascent into the unknown. The air grows thin, not just with altitude, but with the weight of what is about to happen. This is the place where reason ends, and pure, unadulterated faith begins. At the summit, Abraham begins his solemn task. He builds an altar, stone by heavy stone. His hands, which had so often held Isaac with love and tenderness, now tremble as they construct the instrument of sacrifice. Each stone he lifts in places feels like a question from God, whispering on the wind. Do you trust me, Abraham? Do you trust me with your future, with your legacy, with your heart? Even now, will you trust me still? The sound around them is nothing but the deep pulse of their own blood, the sound of Abraham's heavy, ragged breathing. He is not a mindless robot. He is a loving father, torn and tested. This act of building the altar is an act of worship in itself, a physical manifestation of his internal decision to trust God completely, no matter the cost. Every stone is a testament to his resolve. Then comes the most heart-wrenching moment of all. Abraham turns to Isaac. The Bible doesn't record a struggle, it simply says he bound his son. Imagine that scene. Isaac, strong enough to carry the wood, strong enough to resist, lies upon the altar. He is bound not just by ropes, but by a profound silence, a deep trust in his father. His eyes are fixed on Abraham, a look of confusion, perhaps fear, but ultimately, submission. This image is so powerful because it's a foreshadowing, a living prophecy. The love between father and son, bound by an act of incomprehensible faith, points us toward a greater sacrifice that would one day take place. It's a shadow of the Father who would offer his only Son, Jesus, on a cross for the sins of the world. The scene is filled with a sorrowful, emotional weight, a love so profound it is willing to endure the ultimate test. As Abraham stands over his son, knife raised, the entire universe seems to hold its breath. This is the climax of faith, the point of no return. His heart is breaking, but his hand is steady, committed to obeying God above all else. And in that very instant, just as the act is about to be completed, a voice thunders from heaven. Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. The relief in that moment is immeasurable. The test is over. Abraham looks up, and there, caught in a thicket by its horns, is a ram. The provision has arrived. God did indeed provide the lamb, just as Abraham had declared in faith. He hadn't just provided a substitute. He had revealed his own heart, a heart of provision and redemption. This wasn't a cruel game. It was a profound revelation of trust and faithfulness, both from God to Abraham and from Abraham to God. This story forces us to ask ourselves some difficult questions. What is our Mount Moriah? What is the Isaac in our lives, the thing we love most, the thing we cling to, the thing we feel we cannot live without? Is it our career, our family, our reputation, our comfort? God asks us, just as he asked Abraham, if we are willing to place it all on the altar. Not because he wants to take it away, but because he wants to be first in our hearts. He wants to know that we trust him more than we trust our most cherished possessions or relationships. True freedom is found not in holding on tighter, but in learning to surrender. It's in that place of surrender that we, like Abraham, discover that God's provision is always greater than our sacrifice. He is a good father who can be trusted with our entire lives. The account of Abraham and Isaac is not just an ancient story. It's a blueprint for the Christian faith. It's a living picture of the gospel. Just as Abraham was willing to sacrifice his beloved son, God the Father was willing to sacrifice his, but there was no last-minute substitute for Jesus. He was the lamb, the ultimate provision for our sin. Isaac carried the wood for his own sacrifice up a mountain. Jesus carried his own cross up the hill of Calvary. Isaac was spared, but Jesus was not. He willingly laid down his life so that we could be spared. When we look at the cross, we see the ultimate expression of God's love and the ultimate cost of our redemption. The story on Mount Moriah finds it. Let's rewind the clock 4,000 years to the land of Moriah. Imagine a rugged, lonely mountain under a vast, ancient sky. Here, a father and his son have built an altar. This isn't just any father. It's Abraham, the patriarch, the one promised a lineage as numerous as the stars. And the son, Isaac, is the very embodiment of that promise. They've journeyed for 3 long days, a heavy silence hanging between them, a question lingering in the young boy's mind. Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering? Abraham's reply is heavy with a faith that's almost impossible for us to comprehend. God himself will provide the lamb. Now, picture the scene. The wood is laid, the fire is ready, and then, the unthinkable happens. Abraham, with a heart breaking into 1,000,000 pieces, finds his beloved son, Isaac, and lays him upon the wood. Can you feel the tension, the sheer agony of this moment? Every fiber of Abraham's being must have been screaming in protest. This was his son, the child of laughter, the miracle of his old age. Yet his hand, trembling but resolute, reaches for the knife. This is the ultimate test, a moment where faith and human love collide in the most brutal way imaginable. What could possibly be going through Abraham's mind? Is he questioning everything? Is he lost in despair? Or is his trust so absolute that it defies all logic and emotion? This story isn't just an ancient tale. It's a profound drama that speaks to the very core of our own struggles with faith, obedience, and trust. We all face our own Mount Moriahs, moments where what's asked of us seems unbearable, where the path forward is shrouded in darkness and doubt. We might not be asked to make such a literal, physical sacrifice, but we are asked to surrender our most cherished plans, our deepest desires, our own understanding of how things should be. We're asked to trust that there is a bigger plan at play, even when it feels like we're about to lose everything we hold dear. Abraham's story forces us to ask ourselves, how far does our own faith extend? What are we willing to lay on the altar? As Abraham raises the knife, the entire universe seems to hold its breath. Tears are streaming down his weathered face, each one a testament to his love for Isaac. The blade glints in the harsh sunlight. In that single, horrifying moment, time itself seems to stop. Heaven is watching. This isn't a test of cruelty. It's a test of ultimate allegiance. Is God truly first in Abraham's heart? More than his dreams? More than his legacy? More than his own son? It's a question that echoes down through the centuries, challenging each of us. The air is thick with dread. The silence is absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of a father's heart. Then, just as the point of no return is reached, a voice shatters the silence. A voice from heaven itself. A blinding light flashes, and an angel calls out, "Abraham, Abraham." He responds, his voice choked with emotion. "Here I am." The angel's next words are a torrent of divine relief. "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Can you imagine the wave of emotion that must have washed over Abraham? The sudden release of unbearable tension, the overwhelming flood of gratitude. The knife falls from his hand. he rushes to untie Isaac, holding him in an embrace that says more than words ever could. This moment is the pivot point of the entire narrative. The test is over. Faith has been proven. But the story doesn't end there. God's intervention is not just a last-minute rescue. It's a profound revelation of his character. He is not a deity who delights in human suffering. He is a God who tests the heart to reveal the depth of faith, and in doing so, reveals his own nature as a provider. The relief is palpable. The divine intervention reaffirms that while obedience is paramount, God's ultimate plan is one of life and provision, not death and loss. And then, a new sound breaks the stillness, a rustling in a nearby thicket. Abraham lifts his tear-filled eyes, and there, he sees it. A ram, its horns caught fast in the branches. It's as if the creature was placed there by an unseen hand, waiting for this very moment. It wasn't just a random animal. It was the substitute, the provision. Remember Abraham's words to Isaac just hours before. God himself will provide the lamb, and here it was. Not a lamb, but a ram, a powerful, mature substitute, fulfilling Abraham's prophecy in a way he could never have anticipated. This is the heart of the message. God provided in the place of Isaac, the son of promise. A substitute was offered and accepted. Abraham names that place Yahweh Yireh, which means the Lord will provide. This wasn't just a name for a location. It became a name for God himself, a declaration of his eternal character. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. This event becomes a cornerstone of faith, a powerful foreshadowing of a future, ultimate sacrifice. It teaches that when we are willing to surrender everything, God meets us with his perfect provision. It's a beautiful picture of grace. We bring our brokenness and our willingness, and God provides the substitute, the redemption we could never provide for ourselves. So, what does this 4,000-year-old story mean for us today? Living in a world of smartphones and space travel, it means everything. It shows us that God is a provider. He is Yahweh Yireh when you face your own mountains, when you feel you're at the end of your rope and you're being asked to give up something you can't bear to lose. Remember Abraham. Remember the ram in the thicket. Your provision may not look like a literal ram, but the principle is the same. God sees your struggle. He knows your heart, and he has a plan to meet your needs in ways you cannot yet imagine. The story of Abraham and Isaac is more than just a historical account. It's a divine pattern. It's a shadow pointing to a greater reality. Thousands of years later, on another hill, not far from Mount Moriah, God would once again provide a substitute. This time, he wouldn't provide a ram for a man's son. He would provide his own son for all of humanity. Jesus, the Lamb of God, was offered up as the ultimate sacrifice, the perfect substitute for you and for me. The parallel is breathtaking. Just as Isaac was laid on the wood, Jesus carried his own wooden cross. Just as Abraham did not withhold his only son, God did not withhold his. But this time, the knife was not stopped. The sacrifice was completed, once and for all. This is the incredible connection that transforms an ancient story into the living heart of the gospel. The ram in the thicket was a temporary solution, a foreshadowing. Jesus is the eternal fulfillment. Abraham received his son back from the brink of death, a powerful symbol of resurrection. Through Jesus' sacrifice and resurrection, we are offered a new life, reconciled to God. Yahweh Yireh, the Lord who provided the ram for Abraham, is the same Lord who provided his son for the world. So when you read this story, see it not just as a test of one man's faith, but as a beautiful, intricate, and loving preview of God's ultimate rescue plan for all of us. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of the most powerful stories ever told. I hope it has encouraged you and given you a fresh perspective on God's incredible provision. If this message resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores the depths of faith. Do not forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear this message of hope today. And leave a comment below. What does Yahweh Yireh mean to you in your own life? I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, remember, on the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. Thanks for watching. Have you ever faced a test so severe it felt like your entire world was about to shatter? A moment where everything you held dear was on the line. Today, we journey back thousands of years to a barren mountaintop to witness one of the most profound and heart-wrenching stories ever told, the binding of Isaac. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's a story that echoes through eternity, revealing the very heart of faith, sacrifice, and a love that transcends human understanding. It's a story that asks the ultimate question: what does it mean to truly trust? Imagine the scene. Abraham, a man well over 100 years old, walks beside his long-awaited son, Isaac. This was the child of promise, the miracle born to him and Sarah in their old age. God had promised Abraham that through Isaac, his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Isaac was the embodiment of that divine promise, the future of his lineage. Yet, here they are, climbing a lonely mountain, carrying wood and fire. And Isaac, with the innocence of youth, asks the question that must have pierced Abraham's heart like a sword. Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? How do you answer a question like that when you believe your own son is to be the sacrifice? Abraham's response is staggering in its faith. God himself will provide the lamb. Did he fully believe it? Was he speaking a desperate hope into existence? We can only imagine the turmoil in his soul. But he kept walking, one foot in front of the other, climbing higher, his obedience unwavering, even as his heart was breaking. This journey up Mount Moriah is more than just a physical ascent. It's a climb into the deepest, most testing realms of faith. They finally reached the place God had shown them. Abraham builds an altar, stone by heavy stone. Each one must have felt like a weight on his own soul. He arranges the wood, a funeral pyre for his own future. Then comes the moment that defies comprehension. He binds Isaac, his beloved son, and lays him on the altar, on top of the wood. The boy who was his joy, his legacy, now lies helpless, trusting his father completely. Abraham raises the knife. The sun glints off the cold steel. The silence on the mountain is absolute, broken only by the frantic beating of a father's heart. Heaven itself holds its breath. In that final terrible second, a voice thunders from the heavens. Abraham, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. It's the angel of the Lord. The test is over. The knife is stayed. And then, Abraham looks up, and there, caught in a thicket by its horns, is a ram, a substitute, a sacrifice provided by God, just as Abraham had declared. The relief must have been overwhelming, a tidal wave of gratitude and awe washing over him. The ram takes the place of the son. The lamb for the offering has been provided. This is the pivotal moment. On that mountain, a powerful truth is unveiled. It's a shadow, a prefigure of an even greater sacrifice to come. The image of the ram taking the place of the son is a divine forecast. It points down through the corridors of time to another father, another beloved son, and another wooden structure on a hill. It has the story of substitutionary atonement whispered thousands of years before it would be shouted from the cross. The lamb took the place of the son, a shadow of the ultimate redemption that was being woven into the fabric of human history. The smoke from that altar rose to the heavens, a symbol of a life spared and a promise kept. With the sacrifice complete and Isaac safe by his side, Abraham stands on that mountaintop, enveloped in a divine, golden light. The voice of God speaks again, but this time it's not a test. It's a confirmation, a covenant sealed with an unbreakable oath. By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son in blessing, I will bless you. And in multiplying, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. This is no small promise. This is a world-changing, history-defining declaration. The blessing isn't just for Abraham's family, it's for everyone. All nations shall be blessed. This single act of radical obedience unlocked a floodgate of grace for the entire world. The covenant wasn't just renewed. It was magnified, amplified, and made eternal. The peak of Moriah became the stage for a promise that would find its ultimate fulfillment in one specific descendant. One seed who would bring blessing and redemption to all of humanity. The epic scope of God's plan is laid bare, a plan that began with one faithful man on a lonely mountain. As Abraham and Isaac begin their descent, they leave the altar behind. The camera of our imagination pans upward to that empty stone structure, now bathed in a holy light. The place is no longer just a location. It has become a memorial, a testament to what happened there, and Abraham gives it a new name, a name that would be remembered forever. Jehovah-Jireh, which means the Lord will provide. He doesn't call it the place where I was tested or the mountain of my obedience. He names it after what God did. He focuses on the character of God, not his own trial. That name, the Lord will provide, echoes with profound meaning. It's not just that God provided a ram on that specific day. It's a declaration of who God is. He is our provider. In our moments of greatest need, when we feel we have nothing left, when we are at the end of our own strength and resources, He will provide. He provides the way out. He provides the strength. He provides the substitute. He provides the hope. The empty altar on the mountain is not a sign of loss, but a powerful symbol of divine provision. It stands as an eternal reminder that even in our darkest trials, we can trust in a God who sees, who knows, and who will provide. So what does this ancient story mean for us today, living in a world so different from Abraham's? It tells us that faith is not the absence of questions or fear, it's obedience in the midst of them. It shows us that God's commands are always tied to His promises, and most beautifully, it points us to the ultimate Jehovah Jireh, the ultimate provision of God. Thousands of years later, on a hill just outside Jerusalem, maybe even on the same mountain range, God would provide another lamb, His own Son, Jesus Christ, who would be the sacrifice, once and for all, for the sins of the world. The story of Abraham and Isaac is the trailer for the greatest love story ever told. It's a preview of the gospel. The Lord did provide then, and He has provided now. The question for us is the same one Abraham faced. Will we trust Him? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey to Mount Moriah. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the depths of these timeless truths. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How does this story of provision speak to you in your life right now? Until next time, remember, the Lord will provide.
Subscribe now to watch more videos about mystery.